Welcome to the show. My name is Jeremy Poole, and I'm the host of The Moment on Real Estate Social, where we explore and celebrate the necessary transformational process one must go through to achieve a high level of success in the real estate industry. Today, we have the great pleasure of hanging out with Garth Ward of Avenue Properties. Garth is the head of Garth Ward Real Estate and is a top producer of luxury properties in both King and Pierce County, Washington. Garth, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely,
I'm happy
buddy.
to be here.
Absolutely. So Garth, as you know, the show's called The Moment. What would you consider or characterize as being your moment or series of moments that allowed you to go from where you were to where you are today?
See, that's kind of a multifaceted question for me, to be honest with you.
Right.
Because it starts kind of when I decided to be in real estate in general.
Okay.
And that was when I was just about 12 years old.
Oh, wow, that early.
Yeah. I was 12 years old when I was making the decision what I would do for the rest of my life. And I was trying to figure it out. And at first I thought I wanted to sell luxury cars because I was a kid and I love them.
You love cars, sure.
And then I studied that job.
Yeah.
I went to dealerships and I saw what they did and I didn't like it. I saw that people would just come off the street and they would talk to them. They had no control over the process, and that was kind of their job. They'd open the door of the car and that was it.
Yeah,
that's what a car salesman was, and I didn't like that. Right, that was not what I wanted to do. And so, being the 12-year-old that I was, I thought, well, what's the best and most expensive thing that I could sell? Because I knew I wanted to sell something.
Right.
And my first thought went to military grade equipment like tanks and missiles and bazookas and stuff like that. Yeah, no,
Really?
seriously, it did. And so looking back at it, I then realized after I had talked to some people about it that was illegal unless you had special licenses and all this other stuff. So
Just crush your dreams.
yeah, they just like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then I thought, what is a very tangible thing that's big that I could sell?
Sure.
And I landed on houses.
Okay.
And I didn't know what that entailed. I didn't know how to get into it.
Was there a role model or somebody that you saw and said, wow, this person has a lifestyle that I want, I'm doing this, or was it?
Not at all.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't lifestyle oriented even a little bit. It was just, I want to sell houses, and I had no idea what that meant. I didn't even watch the shows on TV. I had no idea.
Okay.
And then pretty much every step from that point forward was what was going to get me ready to do that.
Right, okay. Let's go back a little bit earlier in your life. You have a really cool, crazy story that, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to go a little bit deeper into sort of where you came from, your background.
Okay.
Yeah, so just tell the world kind of what you told me in terms of what Garth had to go through in your process of evolution to become the young man that you are today.
Okay. Well, if we go really, really far back, yes, I have alcoholic fetus syndrome. I am a crack baby. I have a lot of learning disabilities. I have dyslexia. I have lots of different problems. But I went through the foster care system for a few years, actually, and that was, well, as everybody knows, it's not good.
Right.
Anyway, I ended up getting adopted to an amazing family, and they helped me through all of the issues that foster care had given me. And you know, from there, they thrust me into sports. And that allowed me to gain confidence in myself, and that's really what sparked the ability and really my aptitude to be even able to go after anything that was even remotely characterized as success. Sure. And you know, from that point, you know, my whole goal was to, you know, until I was 12, I was thinking I was going to be, you know, a professional soccer player. Okay. You know, but then, you know, you figure out the political landscape of what that is, and I didn't have the connections to really make it.
And that's
so,
it, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's really all about connections. I didn't have that. And, you know, once I realized that, I figured out that I had to do something else. Okay. And, but, you know, I remember sitting in the classroom and at about the same time, and I'd realized that I was an idiot, right? I realized I was stupid. And I was failing most of my classes or getting C's, or like that was the best I was doing. Right. And I sat down with my father, and he said, you know what, you're not stupid, you're just not applying yourself in this. Because my whole life up to that point was training. Sure. Like that's all I did. I had special trainers, special diet, the whole thing. And when I went to him and I said that, he said, well, we're going to add something to your regimen. What's the best class that you have? And I said, well, right now I'm getting a C in math.
Okay.
And he said, okay, well, we're going to add that. We're going to study every night, an hour to 2 hours together, one-on-one.
Yeah.
After he was done with work, after I was done with training in school and everything, I sat down with him for an hour to 2 hours, depending on the night. And we intensively studied math. Okay. And this was in 7th grade.
Wow.
And by the time 7th grade was done, I was finished with, well, calculus. And I was the 4th best mathematician in the nation for high school students.
Jeez.
And I was getting full ride scholarship opportunities to Stanford.
Wow.
And it happened like that
Sure.
within 1 year. And that's because,
1 year.
yeah, 1 year.
Wow.
And then, you know, the next year, 8th grade comes around, and then I was a 4.0 student the rest of my life.
Really?
Even in subjects I'm bad at. Right, I'm bad at writing. I'm bad at like a lot of things, a lot of things. I just tried so much harder than everybody else at that point.
Yeah.
Because I knew I could.
Sure, sure.
And you know, then that propelled me to, well, being able to graduate after 2 years in high school, go to Stanford, not like it, stay back, end up going to a community college so I could bide time while I saved up money for my first car.
Sure.
Well, we didn't have a lot of money, so
Yeah, right.
I didn't have a car until I was, well, only like late 19, basically 20 years old.
Right.
Right when I became a real estate broker.
Sure.
I got it to get into real estate.
Wow.
Because before that I was working 4 minimum wage jobs while going to full-time college to save up for that car.
Wow. Good for you, man.
And yeah, that's just kind of the beginning of what it was.
And so you bought your first home
The next year.
the next year, right?
I was still 20.
Wow.
I wasn't even 21 years old when I bought
And
my
you're
first
able
house.
to upgrade your family?
Yeah, we left our apartment, bought our first house then, and never looked back, you know.
Good stuff,
and now on to the second one, on to several investments, and yeah, it's been a spiral upward, which has been really
upward
nice.
spiral. That's fantastic. Yeah. And so you're how old? 24?
24.
24 years old. Mm-hmm. Very good, man. Congratulations. I'm proud of you. Like, you know, I don't really know him all that well. We've talked a few times on the phone. What I do know about him, he's incredibly hardworking. He's a good guy. And for all of you young agents out there who are aspiring to do something, it's one thing to see photos on Facebook or to see posts or whatnot on Instagram, but this guy's the real deal. He definitely set his sights on something, had a vision, and he does the work. So I'm very, very happy and excited to have Garth on the show. I'm sure we're going to see him back on many more times in the future. So you decided at age 12 that you wanted to be a realtor. Mm-hmm. At what point did you say, you know what, Garth is pretty darn good at this, and I'm going all in? Was it like all in at 12, or was it at a certain point to where you felt, okay, this is me, I've definitely found my lane?
Well, it was during high school, actually. I developed a pretty decent relationship with the DECA person at the high school and with the marketing advisor. And when we were talking and I was telling him I was going to get into this, and of course he knew my prowess because I was running things there.
Sure.
And he told me, hey, if you do that, I just wanted to let you know I'm working on a 43 tract home, new construction, that I'd love to talk to you about right when you get licensed right out of high school.
Wow.
And I said, great. And that's the second I was like, okay, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm not even 18 yet. I'm getting chances to do, you know, multi-million-dollar new construction plats. Yeah. And I didn't even know what all that meant.
All I know is it sounded really
All I know is that sounds cool, and the money's way too big to fathom.
Right.
And I mean, that's not why I wanted to do it, right? But yeah, and that's kind of when I dove right in.
That's awesome.
I started doing the classes and tests and stuff, but you know, the way I figured it, and I know a lot of people look at me and they say, oh, well, you got into it really young. That must be really hard. Yeah. And, you know, at first I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, you know, hey, who cares? What if I suck at this? Sure. If I suck at this, that's fine. Because if I start at 20 years old and I do one deal my first year, right? That's all I have to do. Yeah. One. That was my goal, just one. Wow. And the next year I'll get 2, and the next year I'll get 3. Yeah. And that was my goal when I first started. Wow. I'll get one more deal every year. By the time I'm 30, I'm going to have a great life.
Yeah.
I didn't realize my goals, I would have passed my 30-year-old goal by the time I was 21. Yeah. But you can't plan for that, right? Sure. And then it was kind of just scrambling around trying to, you know, just fix things and well, continue growth when I was still pretty young, and which was hard.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, obviously that was hard because
Sure.
I was like, well, okay, there's all this growth. Now I'm working a business, and
Yeah.
it wasn't really planned at the time. But then I guess people took a slight liking to me or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't really know.
Awesome. Okay. So you're 24. You've done quite a bit of business. You're doing what, around $15, $16 million a year in volume?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
I have like 4 million pending. I have 2 million closing today.
Awesome.
I have another one coming up tomorrow. I mean, it's consistent, but now I'm getting heavy into new construction. So I've got close to 200 homes.
Wow.
Hopefully coming up in the next 2 years.
Now,
So
is that mainly in Pierce County or King County?
it's both.
Both.
It's
Okay.
both.
It's just spread around.
Yeah. Mostly it's northern Pierce, though. I don't really travel too much into South Pierce.
Sure.
It's just not where I go.
Okay.
But
Very good. Talk to us a little bit about your most difficult deal, the issues around that, and how you handled it.
okay. I'd say my most difficult deal ever. It was actually dealing with one of my first clients ever.
Okay.
So my first client ever is actually a good friend today, and she gave me a shot to sell her house in Central Tacoma. And she's giving this little child a shot who's never sold a house in his life. And she'd had it on the market with another broker.
Yeah.
He couldn't sell it. And I came in and I just totally remarketed the whole thing, right? Anyway, I sold it and she was happy. But then I get a call, and of course, at this point, I'm still super, super new.
Yeah.
I get a call from her and she says, hey, I loved how you handled my other property. I have this waterfront out in Shelton. I want you to sell that too. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. I'm only in the business like 3 months now,
Yeah.
and I'm already getting a referral from a client that I've already used.
Right.
And it was a waterfront. And I was like, okay, this is something I have to do.
This is too
I don't
easy.
want to work in Shelton, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I just worked with her,
Yeah.
and then she wants to buy something else.
Absolutely.
And it was, month 3. And, from there, it was, it was difficult because, one, it was out in Shelton. And then I realized all these different regulations and things that went on with this type of property. So it was an acre long. It actually had an outbuilding built over the drain field of a sewage system, which isn't allowed. And then it was settling into what should have been a bulkhead. And it was falling off, and then they had a shared well without a shared well agreement, and then it was all these
Just
issues.
a complete cluster.
Yeah,
And
it
you're
was a
thinking,
complete there was 80 different issues, and then there was legal problems and the whole thing, and to top it all off, it was the most expensive thing in all of Ennetai, which is the specific community in Shelton.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so I'm selling the most expensive property here. And it also has all these issues and the whole thing. And then so I finally was able to put the deal together like almost a year later.
Wow.
It took a long time. The market there's a lot slower.
Sure.
And, just putting the deal together and going through that process and really utilizing my title team and really and leaning on them for a lot of support helped a lot. But yeah, that would probably be the hardest one that I ever had to deal with because there was just so many regulations and so many hoops to jump through to make it happen. But, ultimately, at the end of it, I don't think I made nearly enough money off of that from what I did.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's about.
Right.
And we learned that really quickly in this industry.
So talking to somebody who's your age, who's perhaps going through that right now, what kind of advice would you give them?
Oh, geez. A lot. So I mentor kind of a lot of people now, but a few in the industry as well that are young. And what I always tell them, and I stress to anybody that I meet, is set up and establish a strong team around you.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Absolutely.
And if you get the business and you're going through something hard. You have to have a strong title team. You have to have some people that have been in the business that are experienced enough to show you what you should be doing in that instance.
Well, this is a great time for a shout out. Who do you use for title?
So I use WFG.
Okay.
I use them all the time.
All right.
Marta and Derek are fantastic title sales reps, and I use Cinna Cavillin as a closer in Kent.
Okay.
They've done such a fantastic job for me over the years, and they've always gone to bat for me. It's fantastic.
Excellent.
They're one of those people that you can just kind of handle title, and then which is great because I have to shoot to my next thing, right? I don't have time to babysit all the little steps in a deal.
Yes.
And
that's so
important. They handle that like clockwork, and they give the weekly updates with all the nice infographics and stuff. That I know it doesn't mean much, but it does, because then I can just see click. Okay, that's done. That's done. That's done. That's done. And I don't have to like give them that call. Right. And that saves a lot of time.
Saves a lot of time. Decreases anxiety and stress. So did you just stumble upon them, or did you work with them once, fell in love with the process, and then kept using them?
Well, actually, that's an interesting story. I was using a different title company before I moved over to Avenue.
Okay.
I moved over to Avenue, and at our grand opening party of our Bellevue office, I was mistaken as somebody else in the office. And Marta Drobin comes up to me, and she like accosts me like, "Where were you last weekend? I said to come over to this event, and you weren't there, and you said you would be." And I was like, "Who are you?" Like, whoa. Like, and anyway, later I was just like, what just happened? Yeah. And later on in the evening, she's like, "Oh wow, I'm so sorry. I thought you were somebody else. Blah blah blah." I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we got to talking, and then I met some of their other reps, and from there I decided, hey, I love these guys' personality, their presence, and so I gave them a shot on one of my deals, and it went perfectly. And then the next one, they did some over and beyond stuff, like specific deliveries, like across state, and it was, and then from then I use them a lot.
That's great.
Pretty much all the time.
That's awesome. Well, Garth, you have a pretty strong presence in social media. You have a few thousand followers I saw on Instagram with only a few posts, not literally a few, but
I think I have like 40.
Yeah, like 40 or so posts, and you have what, like 4,000 followers?
Something like that.
Something like that. You obviously understand the power of image. He's a snazzy dresser.
Thank you.
How has social media played a role in your success, if at all?
Well, that's a question I always get because I'm young, and it's something I always kind of answer the same way, because it's interesting. Everybody always assumes I get a lot of my business from youth and from my social media presence.
Okay.
And it isn't. It doesn't work like that for some reason. I've tried playing on a lot of advertising spaces, and I've tried internet marketing, a lot of things like that.
Right.
And it doesn't work so well for me. And I would say that to anybody who's younger as well.
Okay.
Because when you're clicking through a bunch of agents and you just see them online and you see their photo, and you all have good reviews, you all have similar recent sales, whatever, they're going to click the person that looks more experienced. Image, like you said, it's so important.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't pick me if I was randomly perusing online. I'd pick a guy who's 40 or something, obviously has more gray. I mean, I have a little bit, but he'll have more gray in his hair, and I would trust him more, right?
Sure.
I went in the space that people see me. They meet me face to face.
Right.
And otherwise, they're just going to judge me based off of the age, right? So what I use my social media for is more of a platform of interview. Because when people meet with you, step one, they will immediately follow your social media pages and look them up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they want to know your presence.
Yeah, more about you.
Yeah, so it's not really about capturing the business from those social media platforms, although long term it will be.
Right.
Because eventually my peers will start buying houses.
Sure.
Maybe that's 5, maybe that's 10 years down the line.
Absolutely.
But by then I'll be established, they'll come to me.
There you go.
But in the meantime, in that interim, the people that are actually trying to work with me, they kind of behind the scenes interview everybody that they work with.
Sure.
They're going to hop on my Instagram. They're going to hop on my Facebook. They're going to stalk me because that's what people do these days.
Absolutely.
And I want their stalking to go well, basically. I want them to be able to stalk me and say, oh, that isn't a horrible human. I would work with that person.
Yeah, that's good.
Because, first impression is a lot.
Yeah.
But then these days, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if your first impression is good enough, they're going to follow up and do research on you.
Yeah.
And so you better be the one who is sort of cherry picking what they're seeing online.
Exactly.
But that's good because some people aren't very deliberate or strategic or intentional about how they go about creating their own personal brand and realizing the importance of it. Yes, you do work for Avenue Properties. Yes, you are the head of Garth Ward Real Estate, but ultimately it's you. You are the walking billboard. Right. And so if you're, in my opinion, if you are intentional and you have a strategy around that, it's only going to help you, especially being 24 and selling multi-million-dollar homes.
Right.
It's kind of important.
Yeah, no, it is. It is, and I'd say, getting into that was the hardest thing I ever did in the industry, by far.
Okay.
By far. And people always say, well, how did you start selling really expensive homes at a young age?
Okay.
And I usually point to the fact that I didn't at first. My first couple of years, my average deal was like $200,000.
Yeah.
It was not expensive homes at all.
Right. And
I kind of grew my way into that. And then after I'd hit kind of what was a plateau at my previous office, I moved over to Avenue Properties, and immediately my price points doubled.
Nice.
Just because of the branding and the cachet of what it brought to the table and everything else, and of course the mentors I was able to get behind, because I'm a firm believer, if you're not number one, you should have a mentor who is.
Yeah, there you go.
And so that's why I went there.
Love it. So you're 24 years old. You're doing very well for yourself.
Thank you.
How's your love life?
It changed a lot this year.
Okay.
I got engaged to my gorgeous fiance, Kayla Eldridge.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We have not set a date yet. That she's in charge now.
Okay. Right.
I don't get any more decisions in life.
Why would you?
Yeah, I don't. Not at all.
You've been screwing it up so far. It's best to hand the buck.
Yeah, exactly. It's her job now. In the settlement, I get a dog too. Well, it's a beautiful lab, Kimber.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. So, but yeah, so that drastically changed my life, honestly. And when I met her, it was a huge shift in my production as well. Okay. Which is funny, because initially when I started my business, it was to become comfortable. Sure. And then I achieved that. Yeah. Very quickly. It was within 2 years I achieved that. And I had some steady growth, and that was about it for the next year. But there was no real driver behind me. I didn't have as much of a why. Gotcha. And when I met her and everything clicked, and we found out we had the exact same car and the whole, I mean, it was from A to Z, it was one of those Storybrooke romances. And, cool. And what happened was during that time, I knew that I'd had to really establish kind of a real good baseline for our lives. Yeah. That was going to start. And that propelled me to work more, work longer, work harder, work smarter. Yeah. And that's really when I saw the trajectory of my business go up. Fantastic. Because I had a better and stronger why. I love it. Well, right on. Well, Garth, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
Upwell Mortgage was created based on a question. And the question was, can mortgage deliver more to the real estate community and to home buyers and homeowners? The answer we came up with, yes. For the past decade, the options have been either online lower rates or local expert service with higher rates. At Upwell, what we found is that you can have both lower rates and local expert service. If you're looking for something more in your next real estate transaction, click or call. We're here to help.